Haven't had a single drink since I've been away.
That's so true.
Don't believe that for a moment. Anyway, but we've got the trolleys just wandering through. What are we grabbing?
Well, Matt might know this, but it's mostly in Spain. It's a wine. I had it while I was off, and it's a Chacoli. Chacoli? It's very delicious, slightly sparkling. You can get white or rosé version. And
how are you spelling that?
Rosé. T-X-A-K-O-L-I.
Oh, yeah. Chacoli.
Chacoli.
There you go. I got it first time,
Yes,
but yes, Chacoli.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Well, I have a glass of rosé. Thank you for it. It feels like the day for that. So today's confession comes from Philip McNeil. Simon, Matt and Susie, please do not use my real...
What?
Starting well. Oh, dear.
Today's confession comes from Brian.
Brian, right.
This happened probably 15 years ago. We had a ginger and white cat called Freddie. If you've been listening to this feature for a while, you'll be in despair.
Oh, dear, for Freddie.
It's not looking good for Freddie, is it? We lived at the time in Wilmslow. Freddie was a wonderful cat, loved by everyone, especially by the kids. No family event was complete without Freddie weaving in and out of our legs before slumping on the rug, stretching out like he owned the place. One Saturday, my wife read in the weekly local advertiser, back in the days when there was such a thing,
Yeah.
ask your grandparents, that a well-known pet retailer had an end-of-season sale. I was dispatched to buy a few weeks' supply of cat food. Having chosen the food, waiting in the queue at the till, I spotted a display of cat baskets at 1/3 the price. Once they're gone, was the sign. I decided to bag a bargain and added it to my purchases. At the till, the shop assistant explained to me that the cat basket, as it was a special purchase, was in the sale. It was non-returnable. That's what I was committing to. I said, yes, that's absolutely fine. It's a non-returnable purchase. But I returned home very pleased with myself with the spoils of my bargain shopping. The cat food was received with the expected deserved praise. The cat basket was met with, well, that can go straight back. We've already got one in the shed. I bought one a few weeks ago. What on earth were you thinking? Well, I thought it was because I saw it and you never told me. Anyway, somewhat deflated, but to keep harmony at home, always wise, I put it into the car and drove back to the retailer, trying to think up an excuse that we get a refund. Maybe it would be a different assistant. That would help. The store, it's the same shop assistant on the till, and I approached him with a cat basket and the receipt hot in my hand. It was a kind of cheery, can I help you? But his eyes were saying there's no chance that's coming back for a refund. I explained that I had to return the basket as I had a slight problem. What's that then? He said. Well, I said I arrived home and I was backing the car into the drive.
Oh, no.
Go on. There was a loud bump.
Oh, I bet there
and
was.
I felt the car wheels lift slightly and then drop again. And, well, the cheery assistant's face was now a ghostly white. Did you? Had you? Was it? I nodded sadly. I did. I had, and it was. Yes, I'd run over the cat, and therefore I did not require the cat basket anymore. I had a very sad and downtrodden look on my face, Father Simon. My acting was really rather impressive, much like your own.
Yeah.
I tried for a tear, sadly, that was beyond me. I did manage a little catch in my voice, and I cleared my throat as I was clearly struggling with my emotions. Well, the shop assistant was now mortified and shocked, and after many, many commiserations, refunded the purchase in full. Thank you very much. I think he was quite moved by my plight. So, therefore, obviously, why I have come to you and your top feature, I seek forgiveness from the shop assistant, because he was almost certainly a Saturday job merchant, and he got him into trouble from the boss for not following company policy. Maybe he had to pay it out of his own salary. Anyway, the till team probably had a good laugh or story to take home. I also seek forgiveness from everybody, including Sister Susie, as no one was injured or hurt in the production, and no monies or goods were lost unless the shop assistant had the money taken from his paltry salary. As a family, including our new adult children, we have enjoyed retelling the story and laughed a lot over the years. Freddie enjoyed the bargain cat food and lived a long and healthy life, which is, of course, a very reassuring thing, but does not get Brian out of his particular conundrum.
Right.
I think he is Brian, not his real name.
No.
Sister Susie has appealed to you directly.
Yeah, well, I was on Brian's side for a little bit, because how did he know that his wife had bought another cat basket and kept it in the shed? That's a very fair point. However, I just can't get over the fact that you lied about Freddie. Well, I just can't forgive you. The cat had died. Why? If your cat had died, why didn't you take the cat food back as well? You should have asked you that.
That's
because
true.
I wouldn't.
Oh, that is true, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes,
that one.
maybe he wasn't that smart then.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's Matt's going to be Matt's defence. What do you say, Matt?
Yes, I don't think the pet shop owner was very smart. Well, here's the thing: they've got discretion, haven't they? The people who work in pet shops, that sometimes the rules apply, sometimes they don't. That's how it works in pet shops. Also, Brian's wife should have said something about the cat basket.
Right.
Why are you keeping it in the shed? It's not doing any good there. If you bought the cat basket, you would put the cat in the basket, and that's what you bought it for.
Yes.
So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Brian? He is Brian. Yes, 61054, first word is Simon, for the people's verdict. But just before the news, we had a confession, which came, of course, from Brian. I think we established it was definitely Brian, who had to return an unwanted cat basket, but it was in the sale and it was non-refundable. He pretended that he'd run over his cat. The cat was perfectly fine. He pretended. The shop assistant believed him, was very moved by the tale, and he got his money back. The people's verdict is in like this.
Samantha in Cardiff says, forgiven. Genius excuse. Wish I'd thought of it myself. Why did the pet shop have a rule of no returns? Ridiculous. Audrey, though, says, only because if I knew Brian, I'd never trust him again. Who's such a good liar that they can fake cry over their cat that's not even dead? Not forgiving. And Gemma in Bookham says, forgiven. Great excuse to return something to the shop. I love it. I will use it myself for the future. Do you think a dead cat will help me return my clothes that are past the return date? No.
I don't think it's going to work like that. Anyway, if you have a confession, send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. If we use yours, you get a smart speaker, and the podcast is available every Friday. However, first of all, we have to do some serious drinking business from the trolley, as I don't know, it might be a rosé. I don't know. Let's find out what top producer Sister Susie has selected from the trolley as it whizzed past. What have we got? Oh, hang
non-alcoholic
on, there we go.
today.
Sorry, say that again.
I've gone for a non-alcoholic citrus peach cooler. You could put peach snaps in it as well if you wanted, Matt, but essentially it's a bit like a non-alcoholic Pimm's. So it's got lemons, limes, peaches, all topped up with lemonade or sparkling water, and a couple of mint sprigs and some strawberry as a garnish.
That does sound actually quite nice. I like a bit of lemon and lime in there.
Parsley? Oh, I have parsley in my drink. Anyway.
Mint.
Mint. And parsley. In my drink.
Strawberries. I said mint and strawberries.
It's the summer.
Oh, the strawberries in it, not parsley. Good. Anyway, probably not the point. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only you heard parsley when everyone else heard strawberry. Today's confession and today's smart speaker goes to Stevie. Thank you, Stevie. This is slightly it's not quite tea time listening, but it's
Really?
fine, really.
Okay.
Father Simon and the brother and sisterhood of the confessional. I have to confess the following. Back in the early 90s, I had not long come out of the RAF after serving some 9 years for Her Majesty. Married with a young daughter, I had scrimped and saved, even sold my beloved motorcycle to put a deposit on a house and obtain a mortgage. I was working all the hours I could to pay the regular mortgage payments, the interest rates being considerably higher than today's. Each week, I would put my hard-earned cash for the mortgage into my sock drawer, and at the end of the month, take the cash into the building society and pay it in.
Those were the days, putting your money in the sock drawer.
Yes.
Wow.
This is clearly not a wise thing to do. My wife's friend had a boyfriend at the time who worked in the building society, and I would often queue up and chat with Simon, name plucked out of the air to protect the innocent. One day I came home from work and I was busting for the loo, and I duly made my way upstairs to the loo and proceeded to attend to matters.
Of course.
Spending a penny, as I believe
we get
your
the
parents might
I
have
get it.
said.
Yeah.
As I stood there, I became aware of an unfamiliar sound. Not the sound of running water, but more of a muted pitter-patter. I looked down in horror to see the toilet bowl was, very bizarrely, full of £20 notes.
What?
And I was spending my penny upon them.
Oh, dear.
You can't stop midstream, so
Oh.
you have to finish what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
But once finished, I couldn't flush, obviously. Let's face it, could have been worse.
Good.
Oh.
Dear.
I couldn't flush the check, so you can't lose the money. Put my hand in and scooped the wet cash into the hand basin. After washing my hands, I called out to my wife, who, why, and how was the toilet full of £20 notes. Perplexed, we both looked at our 2.5-year-old daughter. And then it clicked.
Right, okay.
The cash was our mortgage money from the drawer. Checking the sock drawer, sure enough, it was empty. There had been £180 in there. It's not cash register amounts, Father Simon, but it was a lot of money back then. There's a lot of money now. 180 quid back in the 90s. I counted the soggy notes, slightly smelly as you can imagine, and sure enough, 180 quid down the toilet. Lucky for us, our daughter had not flushed. Thankfully, I put the notes to dry on the radiator, a little unpleasant on the smell side. But this was in the spare room, so that was okay. I locked the door lest little hands found them again. When the notes had been dried out, as people probably know, they're never flat and crisp again. Despite me running the iron over them, again, an inappropriate smell occurred and filled the house. Anyway, that weekend, I went down the building society and I queued up to see the aforementioned Simon, as usual, and I paid in the mortgage cash. Simon greeted me as usual and asked me how much I was paying in, £180, I said, and I handed over the rather odd-looking wodge of notes. Before I could say anything, Simon was happily flipping through the notes as cashiers do and licking his finger as he counted. I'm just here. Lick my finger again. Lick my finger again.
Oh, no.
What was that on his finger? I turned to my wife, who had seen this and was rapidly exiting the branch. I stood there, took my receipt, and I bid Simon farewell. I too needed to get out of the branch. We have no idea why our daughter had done this. She never said. Was she making a statement about society's love of money?
Yes.
I don't think so. She was only 2.5.
Oh, right.
Anyway, I met my wife outside. We both burst into laughter. We have never had the heart to say anything to Simon, the cashier, or his girlfriend. I hope you can see the funny side and forgive me for my dirty cash escapade. It really was dirty cash. I do blame my 2.5-year-old at the time. She's 34 now and has a 2.5-year-old of her own. In these days of electronic banking, such things could never happen. But an interesting. So keeping the money in the drawer was an unwise thing, and it could have gone down the toilet, and it would have been a very unpleasant thing to lose that amount of money. Anyway, maybe Stevie could just have said, listen, mate, I wouldn't lick it if I were you.
Yeah.
Sister Susie is speaking now.
Yeah, exactly that. I think, do you know what? My toddler is also obsessed with the toilet. I think it's a thing that they go through, and he keeps throwing things into the loo. So you could have been there with Stevie. However, who doesn't look in the toilet before they go to the loo? Do you not just have a glance in just to see?
If you're in a hurry, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know, but I just think I was kind of there with Stevie, but I feel like you could have told him, maybe just don't lick it. And for that reason, I can't forgive.
Okay. I mean, as I said, it could have been a whole lot worse.
It could, yeah.
Brother Matthew.
I agree with you. It's a bit weird not to look in the toilet bowl first, but it needs must. I'm going to forgive, because I've never gone along with this licking your finger before you count the money thing. Always felt a little unhygienic to me. And don't they have those little things in the banks now with you stick your finger on them? That's how you count your money now.
A little rubber tip.
A little
thing.
rubber thingy, yes. That's what they use, and quite right too. Should have been using that, shouldn't you, Simon, instead of your tongue? And frankly, £20 notes in the 90s had worse things on them than that. Oh, I think so. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
Did they really?
I'm sure they did.
Okay. All right, well, it's the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Stevie for his story of dirty cash? 61054. just before the news, we had a confession from Steve. It was a money story. Money was tight back in the early 90s, and he saved for his mortgage. He put all his money in the sock drawer, which is where he kept it safe, so we thought, until his 2-year-old got hold of it and threw all the money into the toilet. Steve was then spending his penny and hadn't noticed, but then when he did, he hoiked it all out, took it to Simon, who worked at the Building Society, who counted it all in the traditional style by licking his finger. Did they mention that to Simon about the incident with their daughter?
Yeah.
I don't think they did. So that was basically what Steve's tale is about. He's definitely getting the smart speaker. Does he get any forgiveness?
Everyone forgives tonight.
Oh, okay.
Linda in Portsmouth, forgiven. I totally agree with Matt.
Yes.
Who licks their fingers to go through cash? I always thought that was weird and gross. Michael and Yvonne say, forgiven, as me and my twin sister decided one day to wash our teddy bears in the toilet. I think we were about 3 at the time, and I still have mine 62 years later. And Frederico says, forgiven, he had saved hard and wasn't flush with cash.
I thought that might appeal to you.
Yeah, I like it.
If you have a confession, we would love to have it. If we use it, you get a smart speaker. Simon at greatesthitsradio.co.uk is the show email for your confession. It's confessions. That's what you do. You handle with care. Hark, there goes the drinks trolley. What a splendid thing. Which means we could do with some refreshment, and it means that Susie from the pub has selected what precisely?
Well, I've gone for a Pilsner today. I'll take a Pilsner Shandy. Keller Pils is the one I've gone for. 4.8%. Nice kind of Pilsner made from malt from Germany and Belgium. Delicious. Lost and Grounded is the brewery.
Okay. Matt seems to be nodding in approval.
Yes, I do. Bit of Pilsner. Nothing wrong with that.
Very good. Well, there's some food and drink coming up with Nigel. Bit of chipotle on the way. So, meantime, we have a little confession for you. This one comes from Bill, I think. Do I have to? Oh, yeah. Here's the thing I have to say. This confession involves a Welsh accent.
Yes.
Now, normally that would mean I go, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Because it would be offensive and patronising. However, the key here is it's supposed to be a bad Welsh accent done by someone who is not Welsh.
Oh, well,
and so therefore, who better?
Yeah, who better than you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bill says, Simon and team, here is my confession. It was over 40 years ago, but still haunts me to this very day. Dates back to the late 70s. I was close to completing my 9-month initial training to become a Royal Marine Commando. Over the 9 months, we had lost quite a few to injuries due to the nature of commando training. Our bodies were in tatters, having been submitted to constant battering. I'd open sores on my back that refused to heal up. Oh, yeah, I should have warned you about that. Just open sores, that's all.
Right.
From equipment rubbing on the skin. And my knees and knuckles, they were bad as well. Anyway, you could go sick with these, but the threat of being back squadded made us take the training team's treatment. This was iodine being applied directly to the wounds.
Excellent news. Okay.
This is first-class health service, I think, in the 1970s from the commandos. Anyway, it was very painful, but being back squadded was worse. It meant you had to go and do another few weeks of training and not passing out with all the lads that you joined up with 9 months earlier. No, thank you. The final commando test was the final exercise. Over a week on Dartmoor, the training team threw everything at us. Ambushes, section attacks, that kind of thing. We were kept on the move all the time, carrying massive loads through the day and night, grabbing cat naps when we could. It was on a night move well into this test that the incident happened that I wish to confess to. It was around 3 a.m. on a dark, wet, misty night. We had been yomping, which, as you probably know, means moving across ground carrying very heavy loads for a few hours. It was wet. It was cold, it was dark. The ground was typical Dartmoor, uneven and boggy. We were all exhausted, but the commando ethos of courage, determination, unselfishness and cheerfulness in the face of adversity, that's quite a long logo, really, it's the commando spirit. It was in our minds, and this had been rammed into us from day one. I was negotiating a small stream when I heard a tactical whisper coming from behind me. The voice said this, "Here, Taff, have you seen Bill? It's his turn on the gun." I immediately recognised the voice of Stu, a Scottish lad. Well, I didn't do that.
No, you didn't.
There was a great bloke who ended up getting the Commando Medal at the end of the training. This is awarded to the recruit who, throughout training, has shown to an outstanding degree the qualities of the commando spirit. And a reminder for this tale that I am Bill, not Taff, but it was very dark. When yomping within the section, 9 men, we took turns carrying the section support weapon, the general purpose machine gun. It weighed, this is very important, 24 pounds and an additional 12 pounds with a belt of 50 rounds of ammunition. So it was my turn to take the gun. I should have immediately taken the heavy gun off Stu, who'd been carrying it for the past hour. The poor man was clearly on his last legs. He was staggering. But in the dark, Stu had mistaken me for Taff, a good bloke from the valleys. Right. Now, I don't know what came over me, but in my best Welsh accent, I replied,
here we go.
No, there's lovely, there's a problem, isn't it? Yucky darn, oh boy, oh. I used every single bit of... No. Look, it's supposed to be bad Welsh.
No, it is. It absolutely was. That's exactly what it was.
That was bad Welsh.
Stu the Scotsman went back down the long stake, convinced that he'd spoken to Taff. We were all spread out over a wet Dartmoor, and he was looking for me. Anyway, another 30 minutes... We stopped and we all went round into the defence mode. This was to check our navigation and to take on water and any cold food and fuel that we could throw down our necks. I then saw Stu nearly collapsing, who crawled to my position, and he said, in his Scottish brogue, there you are, Bill. Couldn't find you anywhere. Here's the gun, mate. He handed over the gun and belt of ammo. He made no mention of the extra half hour of pain he'd had to endure because he'd mistaken me for Taff. He just smiled and said, in his Scottish brogue, enjoy, before moving back to his position. We finished the exercise the next day. We were in pieces physically. Mentally, we were over the moon because that was the last obstacle to being awarded the coveted Commando Green Beret. But Stu was in more pieces than most, and this is entirely my fault. I served for some years and then joined the police service for 30 years. I also became a member of the Royal Marines Reserves. He's obviously just giving mitigating circumstances here. Throughout all this time, I've carried the guilt of that half hour on Dartmoor when I let myself, the Marine Corps and the lads down. Every time I hear a Scottish or Welsh accent, I shudder. I've always tried to make up for this by taking the middle watch, carrying any additional kit, but whatever I do, the guilt remains. Simon and Tim, this is the first time I've ever told anyone of this shameful incident. I am not only asking for your forgiveness, but mainly I wish to say sorry to Stu for letting him have to endure the pain of dragging that gun over unforgiving terrain for an additional 30 minutes over 40 years ago. I also wish to apologise to the Welsh nation for my attempt at a Welsh accent. That's from Bill.
Welsh nation. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. That's from Bill, and also from me, obviously.
Yeah.
So what do we say? I think it's Bill. He's never told anyone. He's been carrying that for a very, very long time. I'm not quite sure what Sister Susie's going to make of that.
Well, Bill, I understand why he did what he did. You know, no one wants to carry a heavy thing, but I feel sorry for Stu. You know, he'd already had it for an hour and then had it for another 30 minutes. And also, you know, his accent by proxy was terrible, or if you're Welsh, of Nadu is what I would say about that accent and Bill's accent. And I just don't think I can forgive him on behalf of the Welsh people, being Welsh myself.
Yes.
I say not forgiven.
I'm just wondering if Stu wasn't very bright, though, actually. Obviously, he was a great commando, but he couldn't tell a bad Welsh accent. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm going to
Matthew.
Yes, I'm going to forgive because Bill, he's showing initiative, wasn't he? Which is very much in the commando spirit.
Is that right?
As I understand it, and as you point out, you know, how did Stu not spot that Bill was clearly Bill and not Taff with that dreadful Welsh accent? Which, if it was as bad as your Welsh accent, Simon, then he should have spotted it straight away. So actually, isn't it down to Stu being a bit thick? So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
I mean, clearly Stu was one of the greatest commandos of all time, but anyway, 61054 for the people's verdict. But just before the news, Bill the Commando had a tale about how he was yomping over Dartmoor and he should have taken the gun, but he pretended to be Taff, the Welshman, so he could avoid the burden. It's a story from the 1970s. The people's verdict is in like this.
So Sammy says forgiven. I agree with Matt. Bill was showing initiative. Also forgiven, says Michaela. Ultimately, what Stu did was character building. And if you don't notice a suspicious accent, you deserve to carry the gun. And finally, Linda says, best Welsh accent ever, Simon.
Thank you.
Love it. I have to forgive.
Well, you know, as we did explain, the whole point was that it had to be bad.
Yes, it was bad.
To get on, and it was bad, and so therefore, thank you very much. Yeah. If you have a confession and you fancy exchanging it for a smart speaker, you send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk, and there's a brand new podcast tomorrow.